Hello, I'm Jared.
And I'm Ebony, and this is his
And hers, Warhammer 40K.
Yay! We are back.
We are back.
And today we're talking about Sea of Souls
Sea of Souls.
Chris Wraight, which
Chris
I
Wraight.
always want to say is Wraight, but we've agreed it's Chris Wraight.
This is Dawn of Fire Book 7. We've been making our way through the Dawn of Fire series. I believe Hand of Abaddon was recently announced as we're filming this.
Yep.
So as soon as that one comes out, we'll be jumping into it.
Yes.
This was an interesting one, for sure.
I think this is going to be a weird review.
Yeah.
I think we should start by saying there are a lot of spoilers, and we are going to do our best to not give you any of those spoilers, but also give you the vibe, so you decide if you want to read this book.
Yeah, so based on the description of the back of this book, you'd think it was about Fleet Secundus making this sort of assault on the Eye of Terror, sort of a continuation of the Indomitus Crusade, the large fleet movements, the kind of things that you've been expecting when you hear about what Dawn of Fire was expecting to be.
Yeah.
This is not that book at all.
No.
This is a horror book.
It's
straight
great.
up. Like, it is a great horror book. Like, a really good, solidly, almost completely standalone horror book.
Yeah, but like if you thought you were going to learn anything about the state of the Indomitus Crusade, you aren't.
You'll get a little bit because all the Dawn of Fire books have excellent appendices at the
Fair,
end.
you can read the appendix.
That do explain sort of the broader scope of what's going on.
Yes.
But this is a story about a singular ship and how everything is great until it's not.
And I think it's a great, like, outside of Warhammer, it's a really good example of that type of horror.
Absolutely.
The enclosed space horror. Like,
Yeah.
you are stuck on this ship, you're stuck in this hospital, you're stuck in this hotel, right? It is a really great capsule gothic horror story.
Yeah, Chris Wright has absolutely nailed the descriptions and the feel of life on an Imperial vessel.
Yes.
And how that can be turned on its head.
Yeah. And when it gets spooky, when it gets scary, it gets scary.
Yes.
It is good. These are the right vibes for upcoming Halloween.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's good.
This was a solid book, and despite really having maybe 1% having to do with the rest of the Dawn of Fire series, there's a few other references to prior books. You could read this completely independently.
Yeah.
You could read this as standalone. No trouble at all. And I recommend it. Like, don't feel you need to read the other Dawn of Fire books before jumping into this one. This one deserves your attention.
Yeah, it's so good.
So what are we working with here?
Okay, I guess we can tell you there are characters.
There are characters.
So we'll name them.
So what we have here is a battle cruiser called the Judgment of the Void.
Yes.
And the Judgment of the Void, we get the whole crew, all of the senior officers, a few visiting individuals from various other factions.
Yes.
And that's really it. Like, it's such a self-contained
It's a very short
team.
list of characters.
You know, this is the first book in ages that the Dramatis Personae has been one page.
Yep, just on a page, because you aren't going anywhere else. You're basically in this. You're stuck in this ship with these people, led by a captain who I really like, actually. Kiastros.
Ioannis Kiastros.
Yeah.
Solid captain.
Yeah. I guess they are our protagonists, right? So I like all of the officers.
Yep.
I really like that there are threaded throughout the story like little bits of tension between members of the officers and like navigators or, you know, like other ship members that like give them all this personality.
Yeah, there's a wonderful balance between the competency of the crew and sort of this underlying trauma and insanity behind everything.
Yeah.
You know, everyone feels fleshed out because of that.
Yeah.
Because you can tell that they're all great at their jobs, but there's always something to pick at on all of them.
I think the chief of the Engineerium, Magda Cole.
Magda Cole
is my favorite character.
She's a great one.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a great choice for a favorite character.
She's got like a lot of sort of gritty backstory that makes you feel for her. She's really great at her job, but she has this...
There are definitely times when in my head I was giving her the Scottish accent
Yeah.
from Star Trek, like the
Yeah.
Scotty accent.
Yes.
She feels
Yeah.
exactly like
Very
that.
competent at her job, yeah. And you're rooting for her the whole time.
Yep.
So there's Cole. There's the Captain Chiastros.
There's First Lieutenant Avati,
Yes.
who I would say is probably the closest to a main protagonist that we might have.
We get her point of view a lot.
Chiastros or Avati, I would say, is maybe the closest that
Yeah.
we have. She's clearly up and coming.
Yeah.
She's a go-getter. She is the master of astrogation.
Yeah.
And something that is pushed in this book that I found very interesting, I feel doesn't get talked about too much, is the fact that in space, you can't just look outside and see what's around you.
Well, not in the warp, at least.
Well, not in the warp, but even in real space.
There's so much space
Most
between
things
things.
are so far away.
Stars.
Yeah, that you don't actually know what you're looking at.
Yeah.
And so astrogation and the sensors that comes with that, all the sort of auspex element to it, plays a big role in this book.
I love when I get descriptions of a bridge of a ship in Warhammer.
This one is
Because
very
I
good
need
for
those.
that.
I'm always
Yeah.
highlighting all these things.
Yeah, this one's great for that.
Yeah.
This is a good bridge.
Which Master of Astrogation is separate from Master of Signals, as far as I can tell.
So Master of Signals is more like communication.
Okay. And Astrogation is more like, where are we in space?
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, so we get Avati. We get,
Is it Baroha?
yes, or Boreas.
Boreas.
We both read and listened to the audiobook.
Yeah, so this one we did some back and forth.
Yeah.
Definitely some of the characters, when you hear the name and you look at the
See the
spelling,
spelling, you're
there's
like,
a bit of
"Oh."
a disconnect there.
Yeah.
So we have the second lieutenant,
Mm-hmm.
Master of Signals, who plays a little bit of a mirror
Yes.
to Avati.
Yes.
Avati is much more of a go-getter
Yeah.
and doesn't want to eventually command her own ship. And the second lieutenant is more like just kind of getting through the day.
Yeah.
You mentioned Cull.
Yep.
You have our navigator, Santalina.
I like her a lot.
Yes, she is an old biddy navigator.
Yeah, she's just like a crotchety old
who
lady.
she's got opinions on all the crew.
Yeah.
And has some great relations with them.
Yeah.
Chiastros is her favorite.
Yes.
Avati, she wants to throw out an airlock.
But unclear why both of them don't like each other. They both are just like, we hate each other, but we're not sure why. I think it's they have opposite personalities.
Yeah?
Yeah. I feel like Santalina, outside of seeing into the warp and being tortured for a living, is like fancy and chill. And Avati wants to be fancy, and she wants to be fancy so bad that she's never chill. I think that's why she's so intense.
I get what you're saying, but I think there's also like Santalina is faithful. And like she
Yes.
trusts captains
Yes.
who have faith in the God
Yeah.
Emperor. And Chiastros is very
Very
faithful,
faithful,
very
yeah.
like trusting in tradition. Whereas I feel like Avati
Pretends to be faithful
pretends to be. Yeah.
because officers have to be.
Yeah, and
right?
Santalina kind of sees right through it.
Yeah.
Or the way I would describe it is like the traditions of the Imperial Navy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this book goes heavy into the
Yeah.
traditions of the Imperial Navy, especially in comparison to, say, an Imperial Guard regiment, where every regiment has their own traditions and culture to
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
it. Almost every Imperial Navy ship has the core
Yeah.
same traditions.
Yeah.
And that's a really big deal. And an interesting comparison compared to the Guard.
Yeah.
You can go on different Imperial Navy vessels and feel the same
same,
traditions. And Santalina talks about that.
Yeah.
And I think she really respects those traditions.
And Avati is just trying to figure out how to beat that system. to
Right.
be at the top.
If I had to give a sort of a metaphor for it, the traditions are like the ladder.
Yeah.
And those who established the traditions built the ladder.
Yeah.
Avati just wants to climb the
it.
ladder.
Yeah. I could. That's why they don't get
Yeah,
along.
so Santalina's not having that.
It's good reading though.
Yep,
It's
yep.
great.
Now, Santalina is also very good friends with Chief Astropath Primus, I think, or Tuyo, who's an interesting fellow. He's kind of jovial.
Yeah, he's not what you think of as an astropath.
No.
right? Like it's in fact for me it feels like having read maybe only one or two books focused on navigators and only seen
Astropaths are always so secondary.
secondary, but it feels like from navigators I get like big personalities who want to have like fancy dinners and get drunk, and you get that from Ortuyo in this book, whereas like Santalina appreciates those things
Yeah.
because she likes the captain, but like Ortuyo feels like the life of a party
So
at a dinner.
I think the reason for that is because traditionally navigators have whole noble houses behind them.
see.
Like they have their own heavy, like aristocratic element to them,
Okay.
whereas astropaths traditionally are more monk-esque.
Okay.
Like there are different
So
sects of
Ortuyo is
astropaths.
new money, and
Yes.
Santalina is used to that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He feels more fun than she does. I liked him a lot.
Yeah. Ortuyo was great. We have Garrick, who's our captain of the ship Armsman. He kind of started out as a pretty basic character, and he develops nicely, I feel.
I think you get to see his character develop a lot in conjunction with a guest on the ship.
Yes.
You're going to get to that name
Yes,
soon.
yeah. So the guest is there anyone on this list of particular importance? No. So there's a few guests on this ship. The Judgment of the Void starts out as part of Battle Group Dominus, which is a subgroup within Fleet Secundus. And so there's other ships sort of trading forces back and forth, and they get a couple of guests on board. One is Sergeant Mizad of the Iron Shades chapter of Adeptus Astartes. Now,
I like him a lot.
I have never heard of the Iron Shades before. I believe they're a Chris Wright invention. They might be in one other short story. Great chapter.
General Space Marine.
Yeah,
what I got.
General Space Marines, just all around nice guys, surprisingly nice.
Yeah, I think I liked them a lot because they were all surprisingly nice and nice to Garrick.
Yes,
Right? Yeah.
has more respect for the ship Armsman
Yeah.
than really anyone else.
And they like come from an interesting world, I think, if I remember correctly.
It's a
like,
night
it's
world.
night all the time.
Yeah.
So like they're not used to seeing. Seeing is a bonus for them.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and there's this nice connection between Garrick and Mizad. Like they build a friendship that is important towards the things we're not going to spoil.
Right, yeah. Our other guest is Sister Isabel, Sister Hospitaller. She is the life of the party.
That's true.
Which
I
is
gave
not-
it to Ortuyo, but it's definitely her.
Which is not at all what you expect.
I think it's great because also, like you were saying, Kiastros and like Santalina are both pious. She is not what either of them expects either. Like
Right.
they are shocked. Like she shows up, and I get the sense.
She's almost strangely non-pious.
Yeah, I got the sense from Isabel that she was just like kind of tired of her sisters, maybe a little bit in a fight with some of her sisters, and she was like, yeah, I'm gonna go get on that ship.
Right.
And the captain was like, it's so great to have a sister of battle, like you'll bless us, it'll be great. And she shows up and she's like, where is the whiskey and when are we eating dinner? And
true.
he's like, we have a doctor on board, and she's like, I mean, I guess I'll visit him, but again,
Yep.
where is the whiskey and are we having steak? It's pretty great. I like her a lot.
That was good.
There are no
Yep.
characters I did not enjoy in this novel.
Well, speaking of, I might have one.
Okay.
Interrogator Ilmaro,
Well,
who there are also a guest from the Inquisition on board.
do we have to explain how they get on? Or are you
no,
not going to?
well,
No.
we'll just say that
So many spoilers.
there's so many spoilers,
We're
but
trying our hardest.
the Inquisition basically gives them a mission to deliver a package, and Ilmaro and his team of acolytes are guarding that package.
Yes, on their own ship inside our ship in
Right.
question. And they've decided no one can see the package.
Yeah, there was a bit of a snafu, and their ship basically had to dock inside of the Judgment of the Void.
Yes.
And that's how our little formation
Yes.
gets established
Yes.
here.
Who are we missing?
That's everyone,
That is everyone.
I think.
I think that's everyone. And might be all the information that we're going to give you.
Well, no. There's a little bit more that we can talk about just
Okay.
in sort of what we liked. The ship-to-ship battles,
Oh, those are great.
I think, are
Yeah.
excellent.
Yeah.
And again, really focus on the astrogation element of it and having to you shoot and you act based on what your sensors are telling you.
Yeah, and I think even in some of the early battles before we get sort of to the climax that we're not going to talk about after, you get to see what I call competency porn, and I love it in Warhammer. It's like when you get to see the bridge crew like maneuvering the ship and coordinating with
When the
weapons
whole
and
battle
firing,
the
right?
whole battle group is
Yeah.
together.
And for in the vein of our characters, you get to see our characters being the best at what they do. We get
Yep.
to see Kiastros pull off a cool thing with the ship that we won't spoil, but it has been done before.
Oh, yeah.
So that's pretty cool. Just getting to see Imperial Navy ships in battle and seeing all the sort of actors involved on a stage making it happen. I always enjoy reading that as a Warhammer reader, because like gives you a sense of the scale that you don't really get when you're thinking about it sort of abstractly.
Right, yeah.
I liked that.
I would say, any complaints?
Oh. I would say, I guess, the only complaint I had is that I felt like maybe we spent a little bit too long in the build-up and not as long as I would have liked in the climax.
Really, I actually have the opposite feeling.
Oh, you thought the climax was too long.
I feel just a little bit.
Okay.
Once you sort of see the direction everything is going, it did feel like we were stuck there just a little bit longer than I would have liked.
Oh, I mean, there were a couple scenes on the other side of that center mark that I felt like went on too long.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I liked the build-up. Like, I thought the build-up was great.
I think what I want more of is the very end that we're not talking about.
Yeah.
I think I wanted more of what's happening here, what's this about, and what does that mean for...
Yeah, and that I would say the bigger complaint is this has almost nothing to do with the Dawn of Fire series for 99% of the book.
Yeah, it's like that there's one page at the end and you're like, oh.
I'll give you two, maybe 2.5 pages.
Yeah, where you're like, oh, this is part of the Dawn of Fire series and that thing it could be important. But like you don't know that until the last 2 pages of the book because it doesn't affect the actual story that we're being told. So I would want more of that.
Hang on.
Especially if we're, never coming back to those characters in this place again. But I don't know. Like you don't know that you are or not. But if that is the choice, that we're never going to see those characters again, then I want to know their end. If we're going to see them again, then I guess it's just a suspicious cliffhanger.
Right. I guess the one thing I did want to talk about, sort of the broader element of it. So this goes into the appendix more.
Oh, okay. Are you going to talk about where we are in the Indomitus Crusade?
A bit, yeah. Okay. So.
And there are 2 lines, right? Anaxian
and the Sanctus Wall.
Okay.
Yeah. So
which one is this?
Well, so we are approaching the Anaxian line.
Okay.
The Anaxian line was what was established in Iron Kingdom.
Okay. Yes. With all the worlds that they had to do. Yeah.
Yes, and the Anaxian line is basically a set of worlds that they could establish on the northern end against the Eye of Terror.
Okay.
To say, okay, we have a line that we can just sort of hold against.
Okay.
And that is what the crux of the story is, approaching the Anaxian line and sort of help support that.
Okay.
The second one is the Sanctus Wall. And anyone who's familiar with the Vigilus campaigns, which there are not books about, maybe one day, would know that the Sanctus Wall is the blockade on the Imperium Sanctus side of the Nakhmud Gauntlet.
Okay.
That was established after... Well, Vigilus didn't fall, but it got surrounded, and the Gauntlet, as of now, is controlled by... Abaddon's fleets. So we were sort of left on a cliffhanger of that story with the big fleets coming through the Nakhmud Gauntlet, the Sanctus Wall getting reinforced by the Indomitus Crusade. Battle is about to happen there.
I see. Okay.
So those form this sort of 2 major sides as of this point in the Indomitus Crusade. I believe we're around year 5, year 6 maybe.
Okay.
It
is 12 years.
It's 12 years until Dark Imperium.
Okay.
Did you read the first Dark Imperium?
No, I still haven't read it.
Still haven't. All right.
Well, it's fine.
Yeah.
I'll get there.
Okay. That's fine. What else do we have? I guess book ratings.
Oh, that's right. I don't know. Maybe just post-summer, I'm feeling very relaxed. I feel like I want to give it a 10, and I'm always like, you can never give anything a 10.
Nah, that's not true.
I really enjoyed it, and it's spoopy season for me, so I was very into just the aesthetic and the feel of this book. I definitely would. I guess since I do have that complaint about the front being a little long and the end being a little too short, I'll give it a 9.5.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would give it a 9.
Okay.
And I do think I would have liked a little more tie-in with Dawn of Fire.
Okay.
Like, as good
I mean,
as...
that's what I mean also.
Yeah. As good as this book is, and it is very good, it's part of a series.
Yeah.
It needs something for that.
For
like
you to know it's in the
we've
series.
had other Dawn of Fire books that really did not have much to do with the others,
Yeah.
and they suffer for it.
Yeah.
Like, this didn't need to be one of them.
Yeah.
So there's
But
that.
it is a really good story.
It is a very good standalone book.
Yeah.
Read it, please.
Yeah. We enjoyed it.
This one deserves your attention.
Yeah. And let us know in the comments if you like this approach where we don't tell you anything about what's happening at the end of the book.
Yep.
I don't know. So we hope this was a good spoiler-free review for you. What's
Definitely.
next for us?
So we will be jumping into, so when Hand of Abaddon comes out, we'll read that.
Yeah.
Yep. But in the meantime, we're going to try Death Worlder
I'm
by
reading that.
Victoria Hayward. Yeah, you've got a little bit of a head start on me.
I'm enjoying
I'll
myself.
catch up on it. I understand that one's Catachans and Tyranids.
And Cadians.
Are they Cadians? Oh, yeah, and
Yeah.
Cadians. Okay.
It's good.
All right. There's that. And at some point, we'll put out Our Martyred Lady, which
yeah,
we
we
did
listened to it.
We did listen to. It was great.
I liked it, yeah.
Celeste, we'll do another one on that one.
Yeah, we can
But
do a short one
Our
on
Martyred
that.
Lady is a fun one to listen to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll
Yeah.
hold my critiques for that.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.